2024, with the lion's share of those increases focused on these climate topics. So I think that creates a lot of opportunity, especially for us here in the Pacific Islands. We are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change. We're extremely sensitive to it, vulnerable. And I think the time is now for us to really latch on and start thinking about what the future can look like for us. A future of those resilient islands with clean and abundant water, healthy soils, and thriving ag communities. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you some highlights about our targeted conservation delivery strategy and the long-range plans that have come along. And I think we'll start to see some great opportunities blossoming from those plans that are locally led, right, from the bottom up. And now I think we're going to have a great opportunity to leverage all of this additional funding and priorities that are coming from the top and put them in the places that matter most. So looking forward to share that with you a little bit later in the presentation today. And thanks again so much for joining us. Susan, I'll turn it back to you.
I'm on mute, talking to myself. Okay, so this is our agenda for today. We've had welcome from Chad. We're gonna jump right into the FY21 program review with Jill Fickbeaton, and then Chad will do an update on TCD, and we'll have a few subcommittee reports, and then do a little bit of other business and any comments from the floor, and then go over when our next meeting is. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and let Jill jump in.
Hi, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Sure can.
Okay, great. Actually, I think this is my second slide. Here's my first slide. So I just wanted to give a recap on the fiscal year 21 programs. We did hold our STAC subcommittee, programs subcommittee meeting on September 29th. It was hosted by Corey Hisashima, who was our acting ADP at the time. The programs that were covered at that meeting were EQIP, our CPP EQIP, AMA, ACEP, and the CSP program. The topics that were reviewed that day were the targeted conservation delivery, which Chad presented, the fiscal year 22 rank pools, which Corey Hisashima presented, the fiscal year 22 priorities of soil health, climate smart ag, urban ag, presented by Chad, and then our timeline or contracting cycles, which was presented by Corey. Important things from that meeting, most important for our programs, of course, is the application deadlines. November 15th is the application deadline for EQIP, AMA, our CPP EQIP. November 30th is the deadline for our ACEP applications, and February 28th will be the deadline for the CSP applications. Here's a slide that kind of recaps our fiscal year 20 as well as 21 programs. It's kind of a nice comparison to see, you know, how did we do this year compared to last year. I always find the numbers really interesting, and this is just a very tip of the top kind of numbers for you. It's always really interesting to dig into detail, to look at the different areas, the number of contracts, the changes in the contracts, the changes in the use of the programs. For example, this year was the first time that we had the CSP program implemented on both Saipan and Guam. So you can see by the numbers that our ACEP program, we had a higher number of contracts, but a lower number of dollars obligated, with an increase in acres. Our AMA, we had less dollars obligated, about the same amount of contracts, but more acres. CSP had the biggest change, which we were hoping to see as that program increases its utilization. And we went up considerable in numbers to 101 contracts from 33 last year. It is interesting to see the numbers in the obligation amount as well as the acres for both CSP and EQIP, as maybe those programs strive to reach some sort of an equilibrium as we start, reaching out and utilizing maybe CSP a little bit more. All in all, it was really close between the 2 years, and it impresses me that both our farmers as well as our field offices are maintaining this level of productivity through, all the challenges that the past several years have given us. I invite anybody who wants to know more of the details to contact me directly. Like I said, I really enjoy digging into the numbers and getting this kind of stats out, as well as seeing, how we're utilizing programs in areas where we weren't previously. So that's my time, I think, is up. My slides are up. Thank you very much, and please contact me if I can ever answer any questions. Thanks, Susan.
All right, thank you, Jill. Does anybody have any questions for Jill at this time? Okay, if not, we're going to have Chad share his screen and provide a TCD update.
All right, let me see if I can get this figured out here. Just let me know when you can see that, please. I look all right?
Yep, I can see it.
Awesome. Sharon, you may not be on mute.
Sorry.
It sounds like you have a good snack going on there.
Right.
Usually guilty of the snacking too.
So sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Okay. So TCD, our NRCS is targeted conservation delivery strategy. As many of you are well aware, you've probably participated in many of the different meetings that we've had, listening sessions, given us lots of advice along this path. So what I'm going to report out on today are just some of the totals of the long-range plans, the TCPs that have been submitted, and I'm going to give you a quick run through of the highlight of all the long-range plans and TCPs. And as we go through this, what I'd like to invite you to think about is how to participate in this TCD strategy in one of two ways. The first being, as we go through this and we share some of what the focus that the field offices have created, think about ways that that focus can help your agency, your partnership, the items that are on your plate to solve. Think about how TCD might fit that. Think about how the focus of these field office plans, long-range plans, may really dovetail within your own goals. And think about where those things might align so that you can maybe capture some of the funding that we've set aside available that not only achieves our goals, but also achieves yours. Another way to look at it would be, as we go through these plans and you see opportunities within these plans, a focus that resonates within these plans that you think you can have a helping hand in, that you can help accelerate, that you can help fill the gap. As we know, NRCS can't fund all things. We can only fund certain things within the sideboards of what's allowable for our agency, but the problems are complex and big. So think about how you as a partner might be able to fill in the gap, close that critical piece that will help us further conservation for our communities. And so high cut here, we had a total of 7 long-range plans completed this fiscal year. We had a total of 9 TCPs. So one of the offices actually submitted several TCPs for consideration, and TCPs are the targeted conservation plans that outline what the ask is for funding, agreements, staff, etc. It looks like we'll most likely be putting funding to only 5 of those. One, we're going to ask to revisit their proposal and find a little bit more focus. And then the other one, we actually think their financial ask can be met with our existing program structure, but what we will afford them is all of the background support, the technical support, the outreach, the additional consideration for agreements if they need them to kind of back them up. But only 5 of them this year will get funding. We had a total of 7 Shark Tank proposals. So what we asked the local DCs to do was to come to us and say, this is our long-range plan. This is the vision for our community. This is what they told us and the partnership told us are the most important things we should be working on. And here's our targeted conservation plan. That's one bite, one chip at the larger block that helps us achieve that vision, right? And this is what our ask is. So it was pretty intense. They all lasted about an hour with the DCs getting grilled about different questions about their project and how it would work and what their funding ask was. And right now we have a total funding set aside of $4.5 million in financial assistance that we're dedicating towards TCPs. We may not actually use all of that funding this year. And so whatever remains unneeded this year, we'll flip back to our regular allocations. And if anybody has any questions along the way, please just put them in the chat. Make sure we get to them. So I want to share with you next. I'm sorry, I need to put this in the presentation mode. You guys probably couldn't see hardly any of that, and I apologize. And so the long-range plans. The first one on Oahu, the focus of their long-range plans was food security and farm viability. And please know that this is a high-cut summary statement. The focus and the goals of these long-range plans are pretty in-depth, but I try to capture them as succinctly as I could. And at the highest level, that's really where Oahu is headed. That was the unifying issue on Oahu for their long-range plan. And their TCP, their focus is building soil health to improve water quality on Oahu. They saw that as one of the greatest threats and also one of the greatest opportunities is to really focus on soil health to help them achieve that food security and farm viability long term. Kealakekua, their long-range plan, the vision of their long-range plan is pretty comprehensive, as you can read here. It's provide for healthy, productive, and resilient landscapes and watersheds, and really trying to make sure that everything can function at its highest potential, both ecosystem services, wildlife, and certainly crops production and food production. And the focus of their TCP is also soil health and sustainable productivity. So they're coming at it a little bit differently, but still within the realm of soil health, and they saw that as one of the greatest opportunities that they could take action on right now to help them move the needle. I'd also like to note that soil health is a part of the NRCS strategic plan, and both of these plans tier to that focus within the NRCS strategic plan that we really need to put a lot of effort into soil health. Kahului, their long-range plan, resilient and productive farms, ranches, and lands to ensure an abundant supply of healthy, affordable food for citizens, and more. So again, these long-range plans were pretty comprehensive, right? They looked at all of the issues across the landscape, and then they ranked them on which ones were most important to do now, which ones were most actionable. And so this is just one piece, really, of their overall long-range plan. Their TCP is based on regional drought resiliency and really focusing on upcountry Maui. And this is probably one of the only TCPs that really had a very specific geographic focus. And they had some really great documentation about why they were focusing on upcountry Maui, what the benefits of focusing there were, and all the other partners that were also focusing in the same area that led them to that. In Hilo, you'll see that their long-range plan vision is very much the same. And one of the reasons for that is the objectives are very, very similar, but Ridge to Reefs was the consultant that was hired to help develop some of these plans. And And so they developed Kahului and Hilos as well. But you can tell that statement resonated with both communities. However, in Hilo, the focus of the TCP is a bit different, and it's to support a stable base of locally owned farms and ranches and using those ecologically based conservation and production practices, right? And this is where we know that we need to support the farming community at this larger level, right? But this is focusing on the ecological aspects, the best management practices that are within the wheelhouse of NRCS. Guam long-range plan, theirs was very, very broad and all-encompassing, and their vision of leading their island community in the protection of Guam's natural resources and really focusing on locally based stewardship. Their TCP is focused on enhancing their ability to address soil quality limitations to improve soil conditions on cropland in Guam. We've actually asked Guam to expand on this. They only asked for a single year of funding, and we want to see them ask for multiple years of funding to better address this concern. But I think you can start to see there's a common theme about soil health, soil quality. A lot of interest out there. American Samoa, their long-range plan was natural resource concerns that impact ecosystem health. Again, this idea of helping create an abundant local food production, strong ag economy, for the purpose of resilience and providing food for American Samoans. And they're the group that had 3 different ideas for TCPs: a high tunnel initiative, a piggery pilot, and a plant materials pilot. And we have to look at these a little bit differently. They can mostly be answered through existing funding programs, or like the pilot and the plant materials pilot. We really need a partner to kind of step in and help us complete those, help us pick up on those ideas and maybe fill in those gaps, maybe help us pursue some alternative funding to help meet the needs of these target conservation plans. And lastly, we have Kaunakakai, Molokai. Their long-range plan and TCP, they submitted that, and we went back and worked with them a little bit more closely. And what we really wanted them to do is to focus on, it was very broad what they brought to us. It was a good plan. There was great research and background information. They had reached out to the community. But we really wanted to focus on what those most pressing resource issues are. And so we had an additional facilitated session last week, and it focused on just kind of teasing those pieces out. And really what we landed on was food security and farm resilience. The COVID-19 pandemic really highlighted this for Molokai, the community, and brought that to the forefront of their concerns. And it's also an opportunity for NRCS and the partnership to step in and help them address that. And for them, the TCP they want to focus on will be to create new opportunities to expand local food production. This is all draft right now, and they will, over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, finalize and create more focus for their long-range plans. And so, before I move on, are there any questions about TCD and in these long-range plans? And I apologize, in presentation mode, I cannot see if anybody's raising their hand or typing comments. So
I'm not seeing anything, nothing in the chat.
Okay. So what we are working on as well is Susan's team is working on a web page that will host all of our TCD information. And what you'll be able to access are some like one-pager summary documents of each field office's long-range plan and TCP proposals, as well as the expanded documents, the more comprehensive ones. And we'll invite you to go there and take a look and see where you might be able to leverage what we're working on to help you achieve your goals, or conversely, see where you might be able to help us achieve ours.
Chad, I'm sorry, this is Dora. It says my meeting chat, or maybe it's my setting, is muted, so I don't know if others are having this. Okay. Sorry, I don't know if it's just my setting or somebody else's. I did have a quick question.
Sure.
For these plans, it's great to have these long-range target items and the TCP focus, but the next steps is to really find the partnerships, right, to execute. Is that right?
Yes, and one of the charges of the TCP process was to align with the partnership, to identify local partners that you can work with or that are already working in this space, and trying to move it forward. So like in Hilo, there's the county plan is all about helping create food resilience. And so we're trying to partner with them and focus where they are focusing their food hubs. And that's where we're going to want to make investments. Like in upcountry Maui, UH is working on a system of weather stations. And we're kind of glomming onto that and saying, wait, we can use that data to better mitigate drought by being more efficient in our irrigation, plant stress, pest management, etc. So yes, partners are key. Anything else there, Dora? Did that answer it?
Well, I was just kind of curious, like, I don't know if all partners, I mean, I know you guys did a yeoman's job in getting out to the community, but if partners weren't ready or didn't get into this, you know, set of relationships, should they still try to be encouraged to participate or somehow align? I'm assuming it's not set in stone as to who is, you know, these are the only ones funded, right? Like, there's still some wiggle room. I guess that's my question.
Yes, our hope is that the partners will see opportunity here and engage with us. We want them to be working with the district's conservationists, reaching out to them, talking about their long-range plan, working with the conservation districts, talking about their long-range plan, reading through these documents and seeing what makes sense for you as a partner and where you think you can participate. And ultimately, what we hope is that these long-range plans are the framework, and then the partnership sees their place within that, and then is bringing proposals themselves. So you may bring a proposal right to NRCS and say, hey, NRCS, we think that we could really help out in upcountry Maui. We really think we can support your drought resiliency project because this is what we want to do there too. Can we partner up? And so in other states where they're using this targeted model, that's very much how it works. The partners will typically drive what these targeted conservation proposals are because the partners are bringing additional things to the table. There are no closed doors. Everything's open, and we hope that this is just really a Kickstarter to the bigger conversation. Thanks for that and for that question, Dora.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Chad? If not, we're going to go ahead and move on to subcommittee reports. I'm going to steal back the screen. And so for programs, I think actually Jill talked a little bit already about the subcommittee met for programs and oops, I'm sorry, I hit it. But and some of the things that they talked about in their meeting. Periodically, there are issues in programs that come up, and then we assemble the committee to get feedback on those. So if you are interested in working with the program subcommittee, please let Jill know. The next subcommittee that we're going to discuss is the Urban Agriculture Subcommittee. The issue is that planning and implementation of urban agricultural conservation in Pacific Islands area. Urban agriculture, it's one of the priorities of the administration, and we keep hearing more and more about urban agriculture and programs to support that. Our programs do support that, but it's kind of a different. The reason why urban agriculture is being singled out is it's usually a much smaller operation. The payment schedules that we have, the cost rates, they don't. It's really hard to take something that is built on the scale Iowa farms and then apply it to something that's, half an acre or, which is kind of what a lot of our farms look like, right? So what we want to do with the urban subcommittee is to, have them get together and talk about, what is urban agriculture, define that for us in PIA, identify some of the local needs and barriers and priorities for dealing with urban agriculture like agriculture. Take a look at the innovations and the programs and the funding opportunities that are being made for urban agriculture and see how they can apply to Pacific Islands area. And, provide recommendations to the director on how we should move forward with, kind of, capturing on, catching on urban ag programs. So initially the subcommittee would meet a little bit more frequently, maybe, monthly or maybe even more often. And then once we get the committee set up, and we would meet less frequently. But I think it's a really important thing. And I think one thing that I had done was I had looked at some of the demographics and the different in American Samoa, in Guam and Saipan, and on the different islands, and I think it almost may have a different face on every island. So it'd be nice to get kind of a broad-based committee to be able to have feedback from different areas. If you're interested at all in taking a look at urban agriculture, programs for urban agriculture, how we can define that in PIA, please send me an email and let me know. And what I'll do is I'll probably be setting up a meeting in the next couple of weeks. And so if you're interested and you let me know, I'll be sure to include you in the emails. Any questions on urban agriculture? The next subcommittee that we wanted to convene is the climate change subcommittee. And I'm going to actually ask Chad to talk a little bit about this.
For sure. And I just want to follow up on the urban ag subcommittee and the urban ag efforts. That's one of the other really big pushes across the country. It's a focus of this administration, and they're putting a lot of energy and time into it. And so I think there was some discussion at the beginning about, what does urban ag mean? I mean, we don't have a lot of urban city type environments in Hawaii. And I'll offer this, that Alaska sees urban agriculture, this urban agricultural initiative, a boon for them. It fits their model, and which I thought was really unique. And they said, it's really just about, urban agriculture is really about getting food to people that don't have access to it, right? Getting healthier food out into the communities, creating opportunities for education and outreach. And they think it fits their model really quite well because most of their villages and remote areas are food deserts. Just like in New Jersey, there are a ton of food deserts where people don't have access to food. And I think PIA can be considered very similarly. We have a lot of the same challenges, and we just need to think about it a little bit different on what urban ag can mean for us. And actually, a lot of the scenarios and payment scenarios and practices they're proposing for urban ag kind of fit our really small scale producers really, really well. And so we should really think about that and see how we can embrace this urban ag movement and leverage that to the benefit of our smaller producers and more remote producers. So with that, I'll jump on the climate change subcommittee. I've got some notes. Susan, I apologize for not getting this presentation to you soon enough. Right. Can you see that okay? So for us, we'd like to create some focus on this climate change topic and embrace the subcommittee. As I discussed earlier, we're disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change. And it's a huge initiative of this administration. And again, NRCS has been identified as the leader in the implementation of this. The budget increases are pretty significant over the next few years. There's also going to be new opportunities to reflect that in the new Farm Bill. Also, they've essentially removed our staffing cap at NRCS and really letting us starting to staff up, really letting us start to fill more positions in our field offices to help meet this demand and this greater focus. So what we don't want to do is have all of this money come down on us and then us just trying to smear it all over the place and trying to figure out just how to spend it, right? What we want to do is think really intentionally about where's the best place to invest these climate dollars. What are the issues that really impact us the most and that are most critical for us to address right now? And let's focus that money and extra staffing on those issues. But we need your help. We need your help to figure out what that is. What does that look like for us? And so that would be the aim of the climate change subcommittee, to advise NRCS on some of those actions. I'm thinking meeting bi-monthly, and we can talk about how to align it with our long-range plans, etc. And then I'll be a facilitator. So if anybody's interested in that, please just throw your name in the chat, or just you can reach out to me directly. Any questions there?
All right, thanks. We're going to give you back some time today, I hope. Okay, so other business, like I said, HILP was not able to join us today because of some conflicts, but it gave us an idea to actually hold a special session of the STAC for our partners to do reports. And so we have some CIG projects and that are wrapping up, and they have some products that they wanted to share. And also, HILT we have an agreement with HILT on easements, and so they wanted to kind of share some of the work that they've been doing under that. And I do want to open it to the floor. Is there any topics that you feel like as a partner you want to bring to NRCS's attention?
Susan, I think Jody has her hand up.
Oh, okay. Hey, Jody.
Hey, Susan. So I put my hand up actually to during the conversation on the climate change subcommittee. So one of the things that I wanted to ask was, as you're thinking about this potential increase in funding associated with climate change, to what degree will there be consideration for the long-range plans that were submitted and some of the opportunities that are linked to climate change in those plans? So like your Kahului group that said, it was about drought resiliency, and a lot of times that is a factor of climate change. Climate change can accelerate that scenario. Is there thoughts about applying the funding using that mechanism that you folks have created, long-range plans, as a means to do that?
I'm talking to myself there, sorry. Yes, Jody, you nailed it. That's exactly how we want to focus these funds, figure out where it aligns with these long-range plans, and then use this additional funding, staffing allocations, etc., to help accelerate and implement the vision of their long-range plans where it makes sense. We have engaged with the Southwest Climate Hub, and they are going to help facilitate a climate smart ag discussion with us in December, where we're going to bring all our district conservationists together. And basically, they're going to give us about a half an hour of, what is climate smart ag? What's the difference between resilience and adaptation? And then out of that, we hope to work with the Southwest Climate Hub to actually start developing. They will actually help facilitate and help us develop climate-specific targeted conservation plans. So we'll identify one of the long-range plans where there's a really good fit with climate, and then we'll have the Southwest Climate Hub come in and help facilitate discussions with us and the partners and put together these climate-focused plans. And the hope here is that we'll be ready because they're not going to give us all this money right now, right? It's most of it, a little bit's going to come in 22, a good chunks in 23, and a ton in 24. So we've got a little bit of time to prepare. And so we want to know, like, when the money comes, this is where we're going to invest it. So yeah, you're spot on, Jody.
So Chad, you know, when you mentioned the Southwest Climate Hubs, the Southwest Climate Hub, which Hawaii and Pacific Islands is affiliated with, right? We're in that group. We've been working with the U.S. Forest Service. We've been working with the hub as well. What we have found, and I don't know how much you have already engaged with them, but in our engagements with the hub, what has become really evident to us is that Hawaii and the Pacific Islands, being the kind of geography that we don't necessarily fit in the Southwest hub very well. We're not kind of it's not a natural fit, so to speak. And so there's been a lot of education that has had to occur and discussion that has had to occur amongst all of us so that we can get folks understanding what climate change means and how we operate in an island system. So I don't know how much you've already had conversations with the hub folks, but that has been our finding. And so if you would like to kind of chat a bit with the U.S. Forest Service, we'd be happy to kind of share with you from a USDA standpoint, sister agency standpoint, what we know.
Jody, that would be great, and I really appreciate that perspective. I found the same, and it's one of the reasons why I didn't ask them to go through their traditional model of working with folks and having these facilitated climate discussions, and instead I wanted them to fit our model of looking at our long-range plans and seeing if they could transition to be facilitators, develop TCPs, because I wanted to fit. And so they were agreeable that they would change their current approach and try to flex it to meet our needs. But you're right, they don't have a lot of perspective on how we live and how agriculture plays out in the islands. They did ask me to be part of their steering committee. So I guess I'm now a part of the Southwest Climate Hub steering committee. I can't say that I am the expert either, so I need to rely on the partners and others for some of those insights. So yeah, let's connect.
Okay.
Thanks, Jody.
And I think this is part of why, you know, we're looking at establishing a subcommittee, is to try and help, you know, make those kinds of definitions and to see, you know, what, like he said, you know, between resilience and adaptation, you know, what does that look like for us? You know, what does sea level rise, or, you know, what do the changes in temperature, you know, mean with climate change? So it's a really, probably, if you're really interested in that, you know, definitely jump in on that subcommittee. Anybody else?
I'll give one example of how the discussions about climate have changed how we might make investments. You know, we thought a lot about Hawaiian fish ponds and putting easements onto trying to figure out if we could put an easement on Hawaiian fish ponds. And so we've been going through different versions of that and working with national headquarters and what that might look like. And so it made us rethink, like, well, if sea levels rise significantly, is that a smart investment for NRCS to hold those easements in perpetuity when they can no longer serve their intended purpose, right? The whole purpose of us investing there to protect that resource, does that still make sense? Or should we be investing those very limited easement dollars further upland in different places? And it just was a really great inflection point. And I don't really know what the answer to that question is, but it is forcing us to rethink how we make our investments, because we really can't think about where we put our money right now to solve today's problems. We really need to be investing today's dollars to solve problems 10 years, 20, 30 years down the road. All right.
All right. Any other thoughts from the group of things that you'd like us to consider, be aware of, discuss? Dora?
I have a question related to the funding that's coming out from, wherever the federal funding's coming from. It just sounds like there's so much being released. How are these or those, and where you guys see alignments? Are there any that from your sister agencies, are they kind of, are there ways to cross cut, or are there ways to leverage? I mean, I'm just thinking, given our land, ocean, and air, so we've got EPA, you got NOAA, you got NASA, you got, Department of Energy, and then we have USDA, so like our NRCS within that organization. So I was kind of curious, how do you see the federal side also aligning, because you guys are doing such a great job aligning us from that standpoint? I was kind of curious, is there any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dora. And I don't know if we have enough details specifically about what the programs and funding are going to look like and how they'll play out, but we will have to keep that dialogue open and our ears open, our eyes open for other agencies' opportunities. It's easy sometimes to think that all the federal government knows exactly what one another's doing. That is definitely not the case. So many initiatives that we are unaware of, and sometimes our partners and others, the public, know more about them than we might. And so two things. One, we'll be vigilant in engaging other federal partners to see where there might be alignment. And two, I would ask that the greater partnership keep their eyes and ears open for opportunities as well.
A couple of things that I just want to kind of point out is that, like, our money may come through programs, right? There may be more equipped dollars that are targeted towards climate change or some urban conservation or something like that. And so working with Jill and the team, the programs team, on that'll when, as those things come up, we have to build the mechanism to be able to distribute funds and to set priorities and to kind of visualize what that looks like in PIA. And so working with that subcommittee would be really helpful with that. The other thing is, I think I try to share funding opportunities that I come across. Of course, there are so many interests across the STAC that it's really difficult for me to cover everything. I encourage everybody, when you go to grants.gov and you search, to search beyond NRCS, beyond USDA. We've already targeted that, there are other departments and agencies that are offering funds that kind of coalesce with ours, right, that kind of align with ours. Bureau of Reclamation has their Water Smart programs. Department of Defense has their REPI program. And so, while we're trying to build these partnerships and work together, definitely, there are opportunities that we probably wouldn't align, but they have. So, broaden your searches a little bit. And like I said, I'll still keep trying to send out what I can find that kind of aligns with, especially with the long range plans that issues that are identified in those. Great discussion. Don't be shy, anybody out there. All right, so I guess we can give you back some time if there's no other discussion. I'm going to just share this one last. Our next meeting is on February 8th. And like I said, we're probably going to do another sharing STAC opportunity in between now and then. So mark your calendars and keep an eye out for our partner share program announcement. Thanks everybody for coming. Any other final remarks from anybody?
One quick clarification. Did you guys say that there's one-pagers for all those TCPs that will be issued shortly, or is that?
They're under development.
Oh, okay.
And, yep, and we hope they'll serve as like a quick menu, so to speak, of what the opportunities are. Yeah. Thanks, Dora. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate all of your time today.